What's up, everybody? Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. So I woke up today and I looked at Twitter to see what was going on. If you hear that loud ass sound in the background, that's my boyfriend leaving my apartment right now, my fiance. There's a reason engaged rhymes with enraged. Anyway. So I woke up this morning and I was looking on social media like I always do, and I noticed that everybody was mad at Liam Neeson, and I was like, well, what's Liam Neeson done? And so I looked into the situation, and apparently on a press junket for his new movie, Cold Pursuit, he was asked about something to do with revenge, because the movie has to do with revenge. And basically what I took from it was they were asking him what his draw was as far as finding the emotion to play this particular character. That's the way I took, like, the general tone of what they said they were trying to accomplish when they asked these particular questions. So first they start off by talking about chocolate, ironically enough. And then Liam Neeson lets them know that at a point a friend of his had been raped. And he doesn't give any details about the friend, but he said it was several years ago and a friend of his had been raped. And he asked the friend if there was any kind of description. And then he asked the friend what the race of the person was or what color the person was. And the person, the victim, said that it was a black person. And so then Liam Neeson admits that he walked the streets for about a week with a kosh in his hand, which is apparently like a pipe or a stick or something like to bludgeon somebody with, and looking for some black bastard to kill, hoping that some black bastard would start with him and he could kill that person. And so people are upset about that, but he admits that he's ashamed of that behavior and that it was disgusting, like the whole line of thinking. But here's the thing. I saw a couple white women on Twitter talking about how disgusting this was, and they just would not accept the fact that this was Liam Neeson admitting that several years ago this had happened and this was the way he felt and this was his reaction, and that he realized that not only was revenge kind of pointless, but also, that thinking, that behavior, that racism was, disgusting, and he's ashamed of it. So when we're talking about people, Liam Neeson is 66 years old. So that's definitely a different generation than a lot of the millennials that are complaining about this or saying how disgusting it is. I think sometimes millennials make the mistake of thinking everybody's grown up in the same time that they have, and that just isn't the case. Like, I was talking about homophobia not too long ago and how that was like regular until like 2008, 2009. Racism was not what it is now by any stretch. Nobody was woke in the 70s, 80s, 90s, even early 2000s. Nobody was woke. So when we have these millennials that are trying to apply the rules to today or the ideas of today to people that were living back then, it's kind of like, yeah, you're working with a different set of circumstances. You're working with a different level of integration. You're definitely in a better position, and I wouldn't hold that against you and act like it's a bad thing. It's great that the world's progressed to where it is, but it took thinking like that and people growing from the mistakes that they made when they were younger for you not to have to make those mistakes, for you to be able to be woke already. Because if you really are if you're a millennial and you really find all of this racism disgusting, take it to your parents, take it to your grandparents, talk to them about it, because they, I guarantee you, had some of the thinking that you find so disgusting and disturbing. I guarantee you. You know how I know? Because I grew up with them, because I saw the way your grandparents treated people like me. So I'm not going to listen to any young white person that really doesn't have any firsthand experience with racism and have them tell me this is the way it works and this is the way everybody should think, when it's something that you haven't ever had to deal with. You haven't ever had to firsthand deal with racism. And I think that people like Liam Neeson are actually very brave for admitting that this was thinking that they actually had. He could have pretended like he's never had a racist moment or a racist thought in his life, but instead he was like, this is what happened at the time, this is where my mind took me, this is where I've gotten to now. Which to me is the best kind of woke person, which I don't think Liam Neeson is claiming to be woke. But at the same time, if you're really going to talk about like the idea of being woke, that means that you've learned something. You know, when I hear somebody like Liam Neeson say that he's grown past a particular type of thinking, I'm more inclined to trust that than I am some person that has never confronted those feelings, has never confronted those emotions, doesn't even admit they're there, doesn't even admit that they were raised with that. Because if you were raised in the United States, there is a certain level of racism that comes with being raised in this country. And it's gotten way better. But it's just something that if you were raised in this country, it's somewhat ingrained in you. And I know Liam Neeson was living in Northern Ireland or raised in Northern Ireland, which again, you have to factor that in. I mean, like, how much diversity do you think they have in Northern Ireland? I mean, it's not like I don't think they have black people, but I'm sure they don't have a lot of black people, and I'm pretty sure Mexicans haven't made their way in droves to Northern Ireland. And so how much diversity was Liam Neeson really dealing with in his younger life? Of course, you watch TV, you watch the news, you pay attention to the media. I mean, when you were younger, it wasn't to the degree, or when Liam Neeson especially was younger, it wasn't like social media was a thing and the internet was a thing. So you were dealing with very limited information. And what was the newspaper telling you? What were you seeing if you saw anything from the media in the United States, anything at all? If you saw it, you were seeing like the worst version, the worst pictures were being painted of black people. And so to say you're growing up in Northern Ireland and your exposure is very limited, maybe that does make it so you don't have a very big scope and you do have very narrow-minded and even what you could call very racist thinking. But it's more from ignorance than hate at that point. And I applaud Liam Neeson for growing past it, and I applaud anybody that actually admits that this is where I started, this is where I am now. And that's kind of becoming a theme on these. And it's not intended, and I'm not looking for stories that are geared that way. It just happens to be what people have been harping on lately. But I do definitely applaud people like Liam Neeson for admitting that they came from a different spot and now they've grown to another. And I think that those are the brave ones in society right now, not necessarily just somebody coming out of the closet. Yes, coming out of the closet is, well, let's not get into that because I don't really think it's that brave anymore to come out of the closet. I remember when it was brave to come out of the closet and a lot of you weren't doing it. But let's not get into that. Instead, let's just go ahead and say, I am on Liam Neeson's side in this one for growing past his old small-minded thinking. The name of the movie that you guys are going to be looking for is Cold something. Cold Pursuit. Liam Neeson is on Cold Pursuit in his latest movie. So if you guys want to check that out, he's seeking revenge after his son is killed by a drug gang, and that's what led him to talk about all of this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.